بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه وسائر من اتبع هداه إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. This is Abdullah here after a long hiatus. And I'm here to announce that I will be publishing a book this Friday, inshallah, on the 10th of December, that will be titled The Passion of Fatimah, Critiquing Kitab Sulaym ibn Qais. Now, what I aim to achieve in this book is to provide a thorough survey and assessment of the Shi'i historical narrative, which asserts that the Prophet's daughter, Fatimah radiallahu anha, was brutally assaulted and murdered by the Sahaba shortly after her father's death, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. The way I do this in my book is by providing an exposition of one of the main sources, one of the pillars of this narrative in Shi'i literature, Kitab Sulaym ibn Qais. Now, Kitab Sulaym ibn Qais is a 12-er primary source that allegedly was authored by a companion of Ali ibn Abi Talib named Sulaym ibn Qais. A lot of the attention that this book has received today ultimately stems from the fact that this book contains one of the most detailed and most gruesome accounts of the alleged assault that took place against Fatimah radiallahu anha. And so the way I've divided my analysis of this book is that I started with an analysis of the book's transmission. So that includes an analysis of its isnads, of its pivotal transmitters. We assess its author and some of the potential defects we observe in this regard, and some of the discrepancies in its transmission and the entanglements and whatnot. The second section is a textual analysis of Kitab Sulaym ibn Qais. So that's more so an analysis of the text itself, and it includes a survey of the numerous historical errors found in the book, the anachronisms found in the book, falsifications, the discovery narrative in the book. And for those that are not familiar with these terms, I explain them and outline them in detail in my book, inshallah. And the third section, and the most important in my opinion, is my dating of Kitab Sulaym ibn Qais. So the third section ultimately is a synopsis of all of my observations pertaining to this book. I date several passages from Kitab Sulaym ibn Qais by dissecting them and discerning their true origins and their original authors. And ultimately, I combine my observations and date the book itself. And one of the more notable conclusions I reach in this regard is that the book that we possess today, Kitab Sulaym ibn Qais, in its current form, does not actually have one author. Rather, there are multiple authors or multiple editors / redactors who redacted this book at numerous stages in history, ultimately leading to the book that we have today in its final form. And so the implication of that is that this text has several layers in it, each of which could be dated to different historical eras. And in this regard, one of the more ironic conclusions I've arrived to is that it would not be far-fetched to conclude that the entire account of the assault on Fatimah is a later insertion into the book that originally was not part of Kitab Sulaym ibn Qais and its kernel. Now, of course, aside from Kitab Sulaym ibn Qais, one of the numerous objections that are cited by Shi'i polemicists who believe in this narrative is that Kitab Sulaym ibn Qais is not the only source of this historical narrative. And to that, I say that this is correct. There are a variety of other sources that are regularly cited alongside Kitab Sulaym ibn Qais to justify this narrative. And I've actually assessed a lot of those sources in my book. So it's not confined to Kitab Sulaym ibn Qais. So I assess nearly every single Sunni reference to this alleged historical event. I assess a lot of the 12-er references, but not all. And I also included several Zaydi references, which I thought were really interesting. And of course, if you're to look at the bibliography of the book, I tried to utilize as many sources as I could. As many sources that provide insight and value to my assessment. And so that includes a variety of Sunni sources, 12-er sources, Zaydi sources, Mu'tazili sources, several academic works as well that touch on this subject. And I think there's also one Ismaili reference that I have through a secondary source. So all in all, it's a pretty comprehensive work that does a lot of justice to this fallacious historical narrative, and it does justice to the historical figures that are unjustly implicated by this narrative and accused of committing a heinous crime that they never actually committed. And of course, there will be more to come on this book, inshallah. Maybe in the future we can discuss some of the conclusions I arrived to in more detail and maybe go over some of the examples. But for those that are interested, the book will be available, inshallah, and we've provided links in the description and maybe in the comments as well to the book on Amazon. And for those who have more questions, feel free to contact Sunnah Discourse on Twitter or contact my account on Twitter as well. It'll be mentioned in this video. And until then, we'll stay in touch, inshallah, and take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.